If you ask a parent, they might call it intuitive. If you ask a musician, they might call it inspiring. To a doctor, it's groundbreaking. To a CEO, it's powerful. To a teacher, it's the future. If you ask a child, she might call it magic. And if you asked us, we'd say it's just getting started.
Let's continue where we are. Okay. So let's continue where the next chapter, which is supposed to be managing knowledge and collaboration. Managing knowledge and collaboration. Okay. So we discussed enterprise systems in the beginning, and then we are moving on to management of knowledge. The little challenge I will have with this is that I'll be using some extra resources apart from the textbook that we have. So I'll be swapping between extra resources, which you can actually get on the class website. The reason is that I realized that the handbook does not go in detail about knowledge and explain different types of knowledge very well. What I think is important for you to know, to be able to understand how to leverage knowledge in organizations. So I'll be using both. So let's start. Our objective is to look at what is knowledge, how can we identify knowledge in organizations, and how can we align it to our organizational processes to achieve competitive advantage. And one thing is that what does knowledge play? What role does knowledge play in organizations? And what role do they play in competitive advantage? This is better now. So to start off, we ask ourselves, what is knowledge? What do you think knowledge is? If somebody has knowledge, what are you? You know what knowledge is. Who can help us? Knowledge is power. Somebody said knowledge is acquisition of information. Are you sure? Knowledge is acquisition of information. Okay, if you don't know knowledge, what is information? Sorry? So in the earlier sessions, we were discussing information and knowledge, information and data. And we define data as raw facts, and knowledge, information as raw facts that have been processed, or data which is information. Now, there's a big difference between all of them. Knowledge is quite different from information. Someone said that knowledge is data that has been put into information that has been put into a logical context or understandable context, which we can verify or recall from experience. Others also say that knowledge is when data information takes on or a specific meaning beyond data. Okay. So knowledge can be viewed from different perspectives. But in a nutshell, I'll say knowledge is a meaningful link people make in their minds between information and its application in a given action or in a specific setting. When we make meaningful links with information in a given action in a specific setting, sometimes you know about something, but you don't know you know about it until the meaningful links are made. That is why you can actually be sitting down and then somebody tells you something, then you connect two things together and say, oh, that is why. Then all of a sudden, the knowledge itself is very obvious to you that, oh, you know about it, or it makes sense to you. So that point of realization is what somebody will call knowledge. But there are a lot of arguments about that. So before the person who made the point of, who make the inference or make the meaningful link, does it mean I didn't know? Or what then did he know? And that is why we are trying to understand what knowledge is. The differences between the two is you have information and you have got knowledge. Information can be with you, but it doesn't become knowledge unless it's a given setting, a given action. That is why you can pick up, I can give you a class list, and you can go to a meeting with it. And during the meeting, they will be telling you to do an analysis of how many people have passed their exams compared to how many people passed last year. And they make an objective decision or give an objective opinion whether this semester students are doing well or not doing well. At that point in time, you're looking at information that's in your hand. You interpret it, you give it a given context, a given action. By the time you make the informed decision, you're actually creating knowledge. Just somebody out there is sitting and saying, okay, that is why this is this, why that's why this is that. So the differences lie in the interpretation, especially in a given context, in a given action. So at one time, knowledge can look at information for you. Another time, it's not information, it's knowledge for you. I know it's a little bit confusing. Let me just explain better. Supposing I know how to repair a car or maybe change a car tire, I can write that knowledge down onto a piece of paper. That becomes information. And give it to STC to bring it to you, Kumasi. You will read it, and if you are not able to make meaningful links between what I wrote or drew for you, you cannot be able to apply it to you to change a car tire in Kumasi. Not that you don't have the information. You have information, but you cannot make any meaningful links with it. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. The reason why people forget in examination hall is because of the fact that the meaningful links are not repeated. He has heard the thing before, he has the information there, he has come it, but the question has come the other way. So he looks at the question, because it didn't come the way he was expecting it, he can't make any meaningful links and he thinks he's in trouble. How do you understand me? So your lack of knowledge is not that you have lack of information. It could be, but primarily sometimes it's not because of lack of information, but lack of making a meaningful links between the information that you have. And many people fall into this. There's so much information in the organization, but nobody is making any meaningful links. So customers are still complaining. Nobody is trying to ask ourselves that the same Kwame who is complaining, the same person who last year he bought this car, who last 2 years he did this. So if you are actually able to make the meaningful links, you understand the guy's situation better before you end up making any decision upon the person. So when we make meaningful links in our minds between the information and its application in a given setting for a given action or a specific setting, then we can say that we have knowledge. That means that you can have the same information, but it will not be applicable in a different context, but it will be the same action. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. You have some information, but because where you are has changed, you are now working in MTN, you are used to work in Airtel, but the same information it doesn't apply to the strategies of MTN, so it's of no use. However, if you change the context, it will change. That same information becomes relevant. and becomes important. So knowledge is when we make meaningful links in our minds. But there are different types of knowledge. There are the forms of knowledge and there are the types of knowledge. Knowledge can come in a number of forms. Okay, before I move on to the forms of knowledge, I still want to explain. We are what we call the knowledge pyramid, where we go from data, go to information, and go to knowledge. So beyond here, we are what? Facts without context. Now, when information then becomes meaningful facts and that with purpose, or data that has been processed, we don't call it information. Now, when we start inquiring that information, trying to define meaningful links, you know what you are learning? Learning is a product. Learning is the act of product inquiry. You are inquiring for information. That process should be called learning. And what you are inquiring for that information, you are trying to find meaningful links. And as someone would say, knowledge is the product of learning. But at the same time, you need some knowledge to be able to learn. Is that not true? So, at the point of time you are learning, you are trying to find meaningful links between what the information that is in the book. So you read it 7 times. The reason why you don't understand is because you can't find the meaningful links. And the connections are not happening. When the connections are not happening, the meaningful links are not very obvious to you. You cannot learn. The same thing with mathematical formula. You can know the formula, but you don't know how to apply it at the right time. Good. So the product of inquiry concerning information is what we call knowledge. The process of the inquiry is learning. We'll be going to learning later, but I just want you to see the differences before we move from there. Then we can have wisdom. Exactly. What is wisdom? Wisdom is when you apply knowledge after some time and you realize that that is how it works. So that you never go beyond, you never take the other route again. Is that not true? Sorry. I should leave the book in fishing. The book in fishing. Or wisdom in knowledge is when the fire burns you, then you know that yes, it can burn. Then you know that the wisdom has been gained. Anyway, so we have data, information, and knowledge. And what is interesting is that as we move up, the focus moves from the content to the context. Meaning that there's certain actually define whether this is knowledge, is data, or it is information. Or the given setting also defines it. Then as we also go up, we are increasing human involvement. The human being is the one who actually determines what is information for him, what is data for him, and what is what knowledge for him. That is why if they give you a class 1 person's course right now, it is nothing to you. You will see it as data or noise. But that same thing, if you give it to a class 1 person, that is their call for the exams. The assistant one to do that. When they go to the exam, myself will come. So you go write myself. So yeah, understand, he tries to write myself and knows what to write very well. So our product of inquiry for information is knowledge. And the process of inquiry is what we call learning. So you have got the types and then the forms of knowledge. The types of knowledge, there are 2 types of knowledge. There's what we call the tacit knowledge and the explicit knowledge. And then we have also what we call the individual knowledge, that is in terms of the form. And then the group of collective knowledge. So let us try to understand each one at a time. First of all, we have understood what knowledge is, the meaningful links to make information in a given setting or for a specific action. And then let's look at the tacit knowledge and then the explicit knowledge. So the types first. Now, what is tacit and what is explicit? When I write how to ride a bike into a piece of paper, onto a piece of paper, and give it to you, somebody will say, I've given you information. That information is like codified knowledge. I've written the knowledge that I've given me and I've put it on paper. So I'll give it to you. So that was the explicit what? Knowledge or information. So knowledge that has been codified by written to a format that can be read and can be interpreted by somebody else. We call it explicit knowledge. That means I can share it in a written format. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. It's not you can access it. Now in organizations there are many types of explicit knowledge that exist. Like the organizational rules, the procedures, anything that is written for us to be able to read. we call it explicit knowledge. Then we can also have, so my individual knowledge, I can write it down. But in riding a bicycle, there are certain things about riding a bicycle that no matter how much I write it, I can't explain it. That's the tacit knowledge. The part of knowledge I have that I find it very difficult to explain and describe. We call it tacit knowledge. Now the reason why it's tacit is that it's part of the intuition, part of the learning over time, and it's very difficult for you to describe. Haven't you seen people who are very good in mathematics or a particular course? You tell them you cannot take it. But he can do this whenever he sees a question, he can answer it. Intuitively, he can be able to do it. But when you tell him to teach you, he finds it very difficult to articulate because he doesn't know how it is. Maybe by intuition, you can just see everything and you understand it. The same way, when I tell you to ride a bike, no matter how much I ride and teach you, learning how to balance yourself on a bicycle, you need to get hurt a little bit. You need to sit down on it, fall down, try to do the leg practice. All those things you get to know how to do it whilst you are what? Sitting on the bike. Or you're telling somebody, teaching a person how to do half punch. No matter how much you say and do, you still have to let the person sit by the thing to let the person experience it. Put him on the brick hills and like you can sit there. So if you can survive that one, he can survive very well. All of this trying to point out that it is out of the experience that somebody gets the tacit knowledge. He himself has to be with it. He has to experience it, sit on it, and then go through it. So that part of information, that part of knowledge is very difficult for a person to share and explain. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. That is why some people still burn rice, even if they have rice. The rice job was explicit knowledge, was trying to help them not burn the rice. So you tell them that this cup of rice goes to this cup of water. But in terms of the salt, that one you can't do anything about it. The person has to taste it and then know it. You know some people are like that they use their finger. They use their finger and say the water touches 1 count. That means that it's enough. The water should be 1. He said yes. Have you tried to use iron to cook rice before? Iron. You ain't going to say, oh, you have to put this side. You put that. That's what the pushing is against. You can use iron to cook rice. You never try it yourself. That's too much. There's not even a no, rice is rice and hard to come by food. Is it box iron or electric iron? You said a certain percent. No, I didn't say percent. It's everywhere. Black man, not on the box iron. Somebody says, oh, but the lady is just writing. You never know. It's a member. It's a member. You say that's the rice. That one should be big. But it's a particular one type of rice. That one goes down. If you use this view, it's a particular type of iron. Anyway. So if you are cooking rice, no matter what it is, if you have to try and do some rice water a little bit, burn it for time before you get the good expertise to be able to know that this is good rice. And the amount of salt I'm putting is enough. Sometimes it takes some time. Some people don't even learn it until they are latter part of their life that they learn how the salt measurements. Anyway. But I want to bring out the point to you is with the tacit knowledge, it's through experience that you get it. As you build it, it's really becomes more difficult to teach it. And because you can't teach it, it's very difficult for you to explain it to another person because you cannot articulate it very well. No matter how much you say, the person has to sit by it and experience it before the person can actually learn it. So that is one. You have been able to see the types of knowledge. Now the form of knowledge, you have the individual knowledge and you have collective knowledge. Individual knowledge is the knowledge you know. You have as an individual and you are the one that you find it very difficult to express and explain. You apply it, you can apply both to experience, but the person becomes part of your intuition, your habit. So you can, when you are explaining to somebody, it's very difficult for you to articulate it. Because you cannot explain, you cannot really describe it. But you know it. How do you know it? I know it. The explicit is the one you can easily write and explain. Yeah, and you can put together and give to someone. For example, if I tell you to tell me how to cook rice, you tell me to get a bowl, fetch a cup of water, you tell me, and then you tell me your measurements. But in terms of what I'll tell you to rice water, still I will do whatever you say, and still I can make mistakes. And that's what I'm trying to say, that it's quite different from what a person doing task from a tacit knowledge and from a specific knowledge. Even in riding a bicycle, you still have to sit on the bicycle, get hurt a little bit, try to balance yourself before you know how to ride a bike very well. So I'm trying to point out that you have got the individual knowledge and then you have got the collective knowledge. The individual knowledge is the knowledge that we have as individuals or employees in the organization. You own it, you know it yourself. And the collective knowledge is the knowledge that we hold as a collective as an organization. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So like organizational rules, regulations, how we do things in the organization. When you join us, all those manuals and procedures we give to you. We have codified them and made them explicit and we have made it available for you to read. So the HR books that we give to you and about the code of ethics of the firm and how your responsibilities and functions are going to be rolled out. All of them are forms of collective knowledge because we hold it as a collective. That is why we're telling that this is how we do things here. However, in some organizations, they become very related together and they have also what we call tacit knowledge. Things they do without necessarily telling everybody, but everybody knows that that is how things are done in the organization. I hope you understand me. You don't need to be told, but you know that you end up doing this on Fridays or on Saturdays you meet together. It's become so part of you that the reason why we do it is actually missing. And nobody's challenging, nobody's asking it, but that is how you do it. And you find them in a more formal, structured public environment, public sector environment. There are a lot of things that they do without understanding why they do it, and they pass on from generation. So even if the computer is there, is capturing it, and the same paper, there's some other paper they are using to capture the same information, but without understanding why they are doing it. So it becomes part of them, and someone will say it's part of their organizational culture, and they do it. So the collective knowledge is therefore held commonly by a group of members, includes organizing principles, practices, and relative organizational consensus. Let me give you a little bit. So collective knowledge is commonly held by a group of members of an organization, includes organizing principles, routines, practices, relative organizational concepts on past experiences, goals and missions. And one thing is the collective knowledge, individual knowledge is given by the individual, becomes for the individual, and the collective knowledge is held by the organization, commonly by the group. So when you go to a meeting, you take minutes. Now the minutes represent the collective knowledge because it's a consensus of what you people say happened at the meeting. That is why when you come in the next meeting, they try to review the old minutes and then accept it, and it is written and it goes on record that this is what happened in the previous meeting. These are the decisions that we do. So collectively we are agreeing on it. And in a firm, we end up having our collective knowledge and we say that this is the collective knowledge of the organization. That is, if collective knowledge, remember that the first time I was teaching, I told you that an organization is a collection of individuals who left unattended will largely pursue what? Individual goals. Now, based on that preamble, this is an exam question. I always ask it. You should go like that. I hear you are scared that you feel. Like, I heard you were scared that you feel. You can get zero. No. I understand that the other lecture was scary.
Yes.
Have you actually want to read his review on ratemyprofessor.com? No. Go and read it. When it comes next time, show it to you. Okay, his name is there. I was telling you that there's nothing new in the world. Actually, the information is everywhere. Mine is not. Is it good or bad? Don't read his profile. Rate my professor. Anyway, let's continue. So, given the preamble that an organization is a collection of individuals who left unattended will likely pursue individual goals. Listen carefully, is the sum of or the aggregate of individual knowledge equal to collective knowledge? Is the sum of, now I'm asking you an equation. Well, I like using equations because that's very easy for us to understand. Is the sum of all the individual knowledge equal to the collective knowledge of the organization? You just three of them are own FM and then add your own. Individual knowledge. Will it be equal to the collective knowledge found by them? Think carefully before you answer. These are the exam questions.
So I can answer the question again.
Go on the question again. Is the sum of collective knowledge, individual knowledge, equal to collective knowledge? Remember, I gave you a preamble before I. So I'll leave it to you, and then when you get the answer, tell me. Probably I'll be divide the x. Some integration to find the answer. And it's not in the test. Yes.
So you can explain.
Okay, I'll go row by row. The three of you should all discuss. Discuss in the back. Tia, this man is too much for you. You have to put your hand on your head. I said she discuss. There's so much commenting that you have to just be like, then after you get some, so this is for the red ball. Anyway, you are saying something.
Yeah, I was saying that, let's say you have a very good organization.
Yeah.
And person one has knowledge, person two has knowledge, person three has knowledge. If knowledge one doesn't share his knowledge with person two and three, two doesn't share with one and three, and three doesn't share with one and two, it doesn't become like collective knowledge.
Okay, he's saying that in an organization, person one can have his knowledge, person two can have his knowledge, person three can have his knowledge. If person one doesn't share and person two doesn't share, it cannot become collective knowledge. Those are collective knowledge in the paper. He's somehow right, but you know, collective knowledge is not about you sharing, it's about you sharing and we accepting it that that's a common knowledge. So you can share and you can say no. And that's why I'm going to go on record that I said this for concerning we going to Kumasi. I said we shouldn't go to Kumasi. But the collective knowledge is saying we are going to Kumasi, whether you said no or yet. But it should be on record that you said that you don't want us to go. So the record will be, you didn't want us to go, you went. That's the collective knowledge. He is saying until you share, you can't be able to, I won't give any comments about that. I'll come back to that later. Anybody? No. You said no yes, but no yes. This answer is for the no. Where's the yes now?
The yes is when they share.
You are saying that
They share common knowledge.
it's situational. So you are on the assumption that the group is united and is working as a group. But that's not this idea.
Well, whether they are united or not, the dynamics within the group is different from the group.
Yeah, but if you are good, you can be in group and group.
Exactly. They are not assuming that they are sharing. Because sometimes the ball can be passed to a by and we refuse to score. But then that's it. As a collective, they behave as a individual. And if you had 11 droppers, they will not look for themselves.
Okay, let's ask it. I understand what you are saying. So all of you are saying that collective knowledge is not equal to the sum of those. And I asked you that which of them is greater? Collective knowledge is greater. Are you sure? Some of them. Let me ask you a question. In a what we go for a meeting, and we take minutes. Now the minutes is what we agreed that we want to write down. 5 years and 8 years to come. Anybody who comes here will pick the minutes and read the minutes. If you capture and show what happened at the meeting. But we who were at the meeting observe a lot of things that were not captured in the minutes. Our individual collective knowledge about that meeting, we sum it up, it's more than the collective knowledge that is written about the meeting. So in that scenario, collective knowledge is still not equal, but it could be, the sum of it could be more than what the individual, the collective knowledge that exists. Even without sharing, we have it. But you also say that if we share, sometimes things can occur, we can let it become bigger than that. That's a very excellent answer. And I'm very happy about it. No, all of you are, I was expecting somebody to say yes. But I think it's more about, now the answer is for the exams. Now you have said your answer, I'm telling you my answer. The answer for the exam is that it's not a question of equality.
So it is no.
It's not a question of equality. Because the thing is, it's not no or yes. It's much more about what the situation, like what you said, it depends. And then you can give me a scenario. In one scenario, when with the synergy, the collective knowledge can be more than the sum of the individual knowledge. In another scenario, when there's no synergy, you may even have more information than what the collective may have. That's all. That's all I'm looking for. But sometimes I ask you a question and use an organizational context to explain. So you have to create your own example. So you can say the football team, like what you but like you use the pencils. Unless you explain that if drama is giving the flow, the game plan, and it goes in just share the game plan. That one understand. But drama, you see, there's a difference between skill and then knowledge and information. How can I tell them to say? When you're talking about a skill-based job or environment like football, I can put a lot of people with skills and still win. I can put a lot of people with skills. How we understand the practice. But whatever it is, whether skill or not, sometimes the person may not have skill for this, but is able to have very good game plan and you can still win. Okay, so what I would say is that first of all, it's not a question of equality. So I like to share that. It's not a question of equality. And then secondly, it's also situational or it depends on the scenario. They can use the example. Most of the examples that are coming up are very, very acceptable. The fact that if somebody has more knowledge, it doesn't share, the collective can never be bigger than the individual knowledge when you sum it up. And then also the fact that if you have got a group that the dynamics are strong, there's cohesion in the group, they are sharing, they are playing seamlessly like Barcelona. Then they can always win all matches.
Oh, sorry, I was Arsenal career.
The past 2 years I've been having hard race. So I have closed my mind. I can't put my money in the sinking. I should come back.
Yes.
Henry has come back, so I should come back. The match like that. You are always going to define about what you want. Anyway, so that is collective knowledge and then individual knowledge. Now let's move on to how do we translate, produce the knowledge then? So we have to learn. So we are going to look at organizational learning. Learning organization. Now, how do individuals learn, in your opinion? How do you learn? You as an individual, how do you learn?
By observing, reasoning, and experience.
Observing, reading, and experience. Anybody have any different way of learning? Experimenting. What is the difference between experimenting and experiencing? Experiment is when you do as well to create the environment. Experience may not create it, but it will. Mentoring. Okay. So you observe. Can you learn how to play football by observing? Yes, that's right.
You can add a piece of personality and then.
Okay, so I'm getting a number. Somebody says there are about 3 key ones I've heard here. He said what? Observing, reading, and is reading the only place. If you are blind, what do you do? Reading is not about a way of learning.
Okay.
So listening.
It's more about the method in which you learn. I'm just talking about the generic definition, the generic practice. Okay, this is where I would say, 1, through verbal transmission of information. So ideas voiced by others or through mentoring, verbal transmission of information. Through direct experience of our sensory data, whether you are going to read, whether you are going to see, whether you are going to feel. Some people learn by feeling. Is it true? Sound and pain. Yes. Sound and pain. When they tell a child that don't put the finger in the fire, inside and you feel the pain, you don't have to cause this pain. Or if you like, get up and then raise the chair and put it on your leg. If you don't scream, then it doesn't mean that nothing happens to you. So next time you can then raise a bigger kid and put it on your leg. If you still don't scream, that means that nothing will still happen to you. Then you can go for a bigger one. Until you see that your leg is down. It's responding to it. The last one is when we reorganize what we know into a new configuration. That we know, like, that's why I said you have to, before learning can happen, there has to be some level of acceptance on the recipient. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. You need to accept that what the person is telling you is different from what you know. So you reorganize what you know to add his own. The reason why some people are, some of your friends go away on fact, the reason is because there's nothing that gives you adds on to what you have. That is why you say it's what you have. And offer is non-factual. So he's non-factual because he's not adding any new thing that you or we know already. Or we know we have heard it before. So that means that it doesn't add on to it, or the incremental value of what you are saying or very much now. I hope you appreciate what I'm trying to explain. So we need to reorganize what we already know into a new configuration by adding what the person is saying. So in creating new knowledge, a person learns all these things happening simultaneously. You are observing, you are like as we're talking or as we are actually listening to, you are observing the my actions. You are even trying to differentiate between the inflections in my voice. If I shout on something, that means it's coming in the exams. If I don't shout, it's not coming. You are going through all these things in your mind, and you are reorganizing what you know at the same time to be able to know and appreciate what you don't know. Yeah. As a person does all this, he begins to learn. But before learning can begin, a person should have the ability of attracting or experiencing the data that is coming. That means that you need some sensory mechanisms to observe the world, to create meaning out of the world. Otherwise, you can't actually learn. A baby is learning because part of the sensory mechanisms or setup of the baby is experiencing these different things. That's why some babies can cry, and you know that their mothers can be controlled by crying. So they cry, they do not what they want. Unless you get a mother that she just leaves you. And after the first time you cry, then the second time you do it, the third time, then you realize that the two when you do it, cry. So we need to find a way of obtaining data from the world, and we use our sensory impressions to be able to obtain data. So in this very world, we create meaning structures, and these meaning structures help us to create meaning, whether it's individual or collective. Our meaning structures are formed by the fact that we observe something in the world and it affects and influences us. So people argue that before a person can create new knowledge, he needs to have some knowledge. So you need pre-knowledge to what? Create new knowledge. Or you need some meaning structures to be able to accept new meaning. You need some meaning structures to be able to accept new meaning. Before an organization can learn, some meaning structures have to be set up. The individual needs some meaning structures. I'm using what we call the theory of meaning structures to explain how organizations learn. You have learned how individuals learn. So human beings, through observation and analysis, create meaning structures. And the meaning structures are the meaningful links we draw with our sensory impressions from the world. And it's influenced by a number of factors. Some of them are genetic, some of them are dependent on the context.